As promised, here's chapter 1 of my book, Each One a Nation. And I left a description in the previous video so you can know what it's about. Chapter 1. This starts in quotations. Man cannot be God, but he can create in a way that God does, says the slouched old man behind the metal desk. He repeats the mantra thrice, as he does every morning, as he sits in his chair. Man cannot be God, he said a final time, raising his finger to the sky, but he can create in a way that God does. His office is completely dark. His warped fingers hover above the desk, while his Vulcan toes waggle in tube socks beneath it. He opens his eyes and ends his mantra. A saber of light materializes under the door, diluting the darkness before collecting itself into a soft, fluorescent underglow that warms the room. The walls around his person illuminate, and the eyes of hundreds of framed headshots appear from the black. They are all his creations. They stare down at him from the white brick, and in the final moments before anyone comes to the door, he consults them silently. Then the door swings open, and the light shines in. His son, Bobby Jr., enters with an armful of groceries and another hand wrapped around a gas station coffee. "Odd now, Bobo, how they swingin'?" he asks his son. "Low and heavy, Pa," says Bobby. "They could use a tug in the right direction." The two smile but regard each other like mangy dogs, both tired and sublime, badgered by week after week of early mornings and focus. On the other side of the door is a warm, steamy room made completely of glass. White banners containing names and precise times from yesterday's champions hang high against the bright red rafters. Sorry, we're taking a cat break. Against the bright red rafters of the Gwinnett Aquatic Center, owned by the county but operated by Robert Catman Sr. through his Gwinnett Aquatics Club, through his Gwinnett Aquatics team, the greatest the greater Atlanta area has ever seen. He has been the program's director for over 40 years and has shed literal blood, literal sweat, and literal tears on almost every square inch of the building. He has slept on many nights in his office, in his chair, sitting straight up, just thinking about the next day. For Bob Jr., though, it is opposite. He showed up one day when he was 4, and now he looks around nearly 40, and is yet to leave for any extended period of time. All of Bobby's full-color memory exists with shades of red and white, and in the light of water. The two men sit around and discuss their charges until, after a while, they begin to arrive. They funnel in like refugees and listen to clicky music in over-ear headphones and acknowledge one another with animal grunts and spasms of the jawline. Almost always they are eating. They eat from the second they wake up until the moment they fall asleep on their parents' kitchen tables with their hair not yet dry. They disappear behind industrial doors, and the arena is silent again for a small while as the water continues to tremble from the slamming of the doors. Eventually, Senior appears at the catwalk above and rests his elbows on the metal. His concept of what is before him is bastardized by nostalgia, the way spaces become when a person has done too many things well within their borders. The building has not yet merged with the self the way countries do to dictators, but rather it is it has elevated itself from a natural plane to that of the old man's mind and molded in as somewhere else. He can go there at any time. The athletes file out to the near pool and begin plopping in as Junior hustles down the stairs and begins to politic among the rank. He interacts with whatever few will acknowledge him and pulls a couple more aside for what he calls baby step chats. Nearly 100 swimmers, split evenly into two teams, now move in and out of the water in the midst of routines that are so routine they no longer need to make sense. 3 of the underclass group meet between the locker rooms to chat with the eyes of Senior, watching them intently from above. The smallest of them, a girl named Mallory, is also the smartest. She carries herself inwardly, as though it's possible for one to curl up into oneself and disappear to somewhere more comfortable. Newly 15, she's found herself oddly renewed by high school. Peyton, the tallest of the three, but only by a small amount, is still very much a boy, with dangling arms and unsightly kneecaps, and a keen clumsiness in both speech and motion. The third is Sloane Streeter, who has been flawlessly charismatic and dexterous since she first drew breath. The three have been friends and neighbors for the entirety of their young lives. They exist as a thing apart from the rest of their peers, a unit, a tribe, something built by time. They discuss the upcoming weeks for the two members not yet present. Devin's dad comes home next Friday, Seth's next Wednesday, says Peyton Crow, stretching his arms and tugging at the length of his goggles. It's gonna be hell for Devin, says Mallory, sitting on the soggy floor in a butterfly stretch. Sure is, says Sloane, who sits on the bench, waiting. But Seth likes his dad, right? Asks Mallory. Sure does, says Peyton. Loves him. Does Seth's dad like Devin's dad? Asks Sloane. Hell no, says Peyton and Mallory at the same time. What about your dad? Sloane asks Peyton. They all pause and wait for Peyton's reply. My dad doesn't trust either of them. They can feel Catman pacing above them, which means he's going to press the timer soon. The GAT sessions do not have an approximate start time. The rule is that the session will begin sometime between 5 and 5:15. But if Catman was not already on the time, but if Catman has already turned on the timer and a person is not in the water, they're cooked. They're toast. They're eviscerated to the degree that GAT swimmers, often in their college years, counsel one another about a possibility that it was all just a weird collective dream and that none of it had actually ever happened. Catmen didn't exist. They didn't reach actual heights in a very difficult sport. Things were never broken until they were obscenely older versions of themselves. They give one another therapy in loud undergraduate bars and wonder if it could be possible that they had all just been through something really torturous, but that they had somehow made it up as their fondest memories. Had they wonder aloud, somehow enjoyed a very pleasurable collective amnesia. Peyton stares blankly into the white banners with their names and their times. He is hypnotized by the faint blips of moments caused by the air conditioning that make it all look like a cohesive silent wave, like grains fainting slightly in the breeze. Now, I'm warning y'all today, says the cackling Cajun voice from above. If y'all ain't in the water by the sound of this horn, I swear to God. Peyton, Sloane, and Mallory sprint across the deck and dive in. They appear at the surface with crooked goggles, while the upperclassmen in the next pool shake their heads in a terrified attempt at pity. Seth McWhite treads among them. He is a sly junior, tall, lean, but already beginning to curdle slightly along the rims of his hips. He is the oldest of his friends. All he wishes to do is graduate, and to be done with the madness and the meaninglessness of youth. Old Robert Catman Sr. begins to labor first to the stairs and then down them, slowly approaching each step, slowly lowering himself to the next step. Finally, he reaches the pool. All right now, he repeats, here we go. He slams his hand against the buzzer. It gives slightly but does not activate the timer. He watches in horror as none of his athletes move. What in the hell, he mutters. His tempers flare. But before he explodes, his son steps in and says, timer's jammed, coach. Give it another press. The elder Catman says, Art, and presses the button. The buzzer sounds with one sharp and aggressive noise, and the water begins to move in a cycling orchestration beneath the old man. Fountains of it splash into the air behind and between the young swimmers, while buckets worth of it bail over the pool's boundaries and onto the aerated deck. The sounds of splashing and gasping hands slapping water echo loudly through the arena while the sun begins to rise, littering the gray light with shades of radiant orange. Somehow, from all of it, the Catman duo begin analyzing and evaluating individuals. Bobby Jr., who has never taken attendance formally, as he can do it simply by watching the warm-up. He works lane by lane, splash by splash, to find missing bodies, and he notices one today. Devin Del Rio is absent. Y'all look like a bunch of floating floaters, my God, boy. Like some turds they look. Some turds, Bobo. That's what I'm seeing in the soup, yells Senior. You people woke up not only on the wrong side of the bed, but on the wrong side of my patience. Bobby, feeling like his dad wasted a tremendous amount of time and energy on grandstanding, does not acknowledge him. But his dad continues anyway, berating the team before sounding the buzzer again, bringing the session to a stop. I swear to God, we will be here all day. You will miss school if this is how the morning is going to go. As the lecture ensues, Bobby notices the door behind Senior is opening, and Devin is pointing her head through it to see if the coast is clear. Bobby, aiming to cause a distraction, sees the opportunity to do the very thing that would hold his father's attention the longest. He plans to agree with him. Damn it, he yells. The entire crowd of swimmers of the pool turn to face him, and so does Senior. Damn it, Coach, you're right. You're so right. An absolute bunch of turds. Some turds in the pool. Some goddamn turds, Coach. As a glimmer of hope cringes across the old man's face, Devin squat runs through the door and into the locker room to change quickly and attempt to sneak by again. As a glimmer of hope cringes across the old man's face, Devin squat runs. Oh, well, anyway, grunts Senior. Let's get on with it. He slaps the buzzer again and waddles back to the stairs, climbs halfway up, catches his breath, and begins again as Devin pokes her head across the locker room, sees the old man on the stairs, sprints across the deck, and dives in, just barely missing Peyton Crow in lane 2. Senior steps into his spot on the balcony outside of his office, his forearms resting on the cold red metal. This is what he calls the conditioning phase of the program. You want to be a swimmer, he often asks them, then get in the pool and swim. The juniors, seniors, and any visiting professionals get the far pool. From there, they watch as the younger kids go through what they have gone through themselves, and a small part of them feels something borderline sexual about seeing it done to somebody else. It's called conditioning, says Seth to Max Crow, Peyton's older brother, not so much because of the physical condition we obtain, but because they are literally conditioning us. They call it conditioning. What's the big deal, says Max. We get in, we swim, it's conditioning. We go home, we eat something. What do you want? But they are teaching us to honor them with our pain, says Seth. To give them our pain so that they approve of us. We're 17, man, says Max. We're 17 and we're at swim practice. People have done this for decades, centuries. Catman yells a hawkish threat at them from above. All right now, old folks, I'm watching y'all too. Every swimmer in the pool simultaneously splashes below the surface and begins to move laterally. Meanwhile, in the near pool, some of the younger kids have given up. They resort to a death clench on the side of the pool and try to look miserable enough for someone to feel bad for them. A few of them begin to laughing at their own doom. They are new, only babies, and they do not understand that they are committing mortal sins. Among them is Peyton Crow, who thinks of his mother and what she might have said, and what she might have to say about all of it. Crow, screeches Senior. What in a... He begins to trek back down from his perch in the same painful way as before. Peyton spazzes between jumping into the water and awaiting his punishment. He nearly forgets how to breathe. When Senior reaches the bottom, he kicks off his sandals and clops through the newly splashed puddles of the water accumulating on the deck. A few of the wall stragglers have returned to the fray, but Peyton, feeling himself dead in the rights, grips weakly to the wall and waits for the pending thunder. Senior reaches the boy and drops to his knees next to him. Crow, he whispers, bending very close to the boy's face. Listen to me. You are very weak. You are not a good swimmer. But your brothers are big guys. They're athletic. Your father was athletic. All right, now, you'll figure all this out. Peyton nods his quivering, goggled face, feeling something like love toward the old man. But until then, Captain says, his demeanor changing drastically, you'll swim. He unhooks Peyton's fingers from the wall with his crooked toes and watches him fall beneath the water. The older kids who have stopped again to watch begin to laugh, which draws his fury back to them. All right, now, he shouts and begins his sloppy creep around the closed pool's perimeter. But he stops to grab Bobby by the arm, leaning in and telling him, listen, Bobby, that little bitch was late, and you helped her sneak in. Don't do it again. He continues on the other side of the pool, where he commences to target somebody else. Junior leans over side of the pool to check on Peyton Crow, who is yet to emerge. He's just sitting down there, dreaming about being at home, about it not being so early, about a coach who isn't a tyrant, about girls. What do girls feel like, he thinks. And then he runs out of breath and he begins a sad journey to the surface, where he breaches into the echoing sound of Robert Catman Sr. eliminating an underclassman verbally. He has half a mind to just grab a gulp of air and head back down. He feels like a terrified little boy in front of his friends, and he never wants to feel that way again. Swim, Peyton. Hi, baby. Hi. Hi. You okay? Swim, Peyton, yells Bobby. Just go slow, but don't stop. Peyton begins to kick and throws his hands forward, drawing water to his sides. He slowly moves across the water's horizon. When the puking begins, Captain calls it quits for the day, but only physically. The upperclassmen are dismissed and head to their respective locker rooms. Come here. Come here. Come here. Head to their respective locker rooms to change. Senior gathers the remaining 50 athletes on a single set of small bleachers. They are forced to cram in so that everyone, even in their soaking wet suits, fit. No towels are permitted. No talking is permitted. If anyone talks, they are ordered back into the water, where they will swim until the speech has concluded. Peyton Crow, Devin Del Rio, and Mallory Barber sit crammed together in the middle of the crowd. Peyton mumbles to himself about how he's surely going to quit. Peyton, shh, Mallory says. You know what he'll do. Peyton quiets instantly as Robert Catman Sr. begins to speak. All right, now, he says, look around this place. Look at the banners. How do you think this all happens? Do you think these names just get sewed in by little fairies when y'all aren't here? Nope, that ain't it. See, all this takes some time and effort, and all I'm seeing out of y'all is attendance and infirmity. Laziness, sloth, apathy. Y'all show up late, y'all half-ass the reps, y'all wonder why the best days seem to be behind us. The whole lot of them scatter their eyes around the ceiling like spotlights, pretending to see beyond the dank semi-darkness of the open arena. Catman seems to stare at all of them, and none of them at once, as he waits for a representative to step up and say something. After an anxious moment, they avert their glances from the banners on the walls and the ceilings to each other, desperately scanning for one of them who is going to speak for them. A nervous heat arises over them. You know what, he says, sighing, y'all ain't even worth it. Sit here together until it's right. With that, he wheels around and dives into the pool, appearing yards beyond his point of impact, and gliding gracefully but powerfully to the opposite side of the pool, where he pulls himself out, recovers his flip-flops, and begins his painful ascent up the red stairs. His flip-flops fart and suck beneath his feet until he disappears behind the office door. Figure it out, asked Sloane Streeter. I think we're supposed to all chat about what we could do to make it better and send a representative up there to tell him what our plan is, says Mallory. But Mallory, says Sloane, send somebody up there? I'll do it, says Devin. I'll tell him our effort was poor and that we'd be better tomorrow. The pale, bony girl appears from the crowd and slops through the puddles and up the clanky stairs to the office, where she disappears behind the door. Oh my God, says Peyton Crow, doing the sign of the cross for good measure. On the other side of the door, she enters a madly lit room with no windows, where the senior Catman is leaning deep into his chair, sipping from a 2-liter of tonic water, while Bobby Catman pulls Chinese food from the microwave. Del Rio, he says, they've chosen you. Yes, sir, she says confidently. She continues straight to his desk and takes a seat in the right side chair, which always has a towel on it, for swimmer consults. Yes, sir, we've decided that we agree that our effort today was unacceptable and that we will also agree to make a conscious effort to be above and beyond tomorrow in that regard. He takes a massive pull from the tonic water while he listens to her plea. And I'm very sorry I was late, she adds. It will not happen again as long as I am a swimmer on this team. He finishes his chug of tonic water, returns the bottle to the top of the desk, and holds his hands out to present his son with the blessing they both rightly would receive. All right now, Devin, let him go. Tell him tomorrow is a day of reckoning. He shoos her away to send the underclassman home before turning to his son and saying, "She might have the only set of nuts in your younger crew, Bobo." Junior scooping a massive bite in lo mein into his mouth with chopsticks. "Goose some or chew," he says. "Swallow, you brute," says his father critically. "I said, good swimmer, too."